Hey guys, what is up? And I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So today we're going to be going over the changes, the early preseason, or not preseason, sorry, the 9.20 changes for League of Legends on the PvE. Now, I want to do this video a little bit differently than the way I usually do it. I thought I would do it kind of like this. I thought it would be a little bit more almost like personal, like I can actually talk to you guys. You know, we'll go over the changes together and starting at 20 and everything like that. The changes that Riot has posted so far, etc. And I thought maybe that'll be interesting for you guys. So let me know what you think about this kind of style over the older or other style, I guess, I used to do for patch videos. But let's just jump right into it. By the way, in the comments below, let me know what you think about this new slick haircuts. Biggest forehead probably in the League of Legends scene. Who has a bigger forehead than me? Let me know down below as well. But either way, guys, let's just jump right into it. So, 9.20. We have buffs and nerfs coming over to some champions, as you can see here. So we have buff coming over to Locket of the Iron Solari, Ivern, Viktor, Shaco, Garen, Rengar, Lissandra, and Varus, right? Which we'll go over some of them because some of those changes are, of course, already on the PvE server. And then we have some nerfs coming over to Kiana, which I'll be honest, not very happy about. I'm a little bit actually upset about that, I would even say. And we have Pantheon, and of course we have Blitzkranku. Now Blitz got a massive buff this patch, so I'm not too surprised that they're actually thinking about nerfing him already. Pantheon is completely broken as well, so we'll go over each of them. Some of the changes are here, some of the changes are not here yet, so let's go over the ones that are here, and let's talk about them right here and right now. So the first of which I want to talk about is going to be Garen. Now Garen has been on the PvE server for a very long time. They're just constantly changing and testing things with this guy, right? He has bunch of like different changes to his, mini rework, we can call it. So let's see what Riot is cracking up right now for us on the PvE service. So his base HP is being lowered to 615. Okay, so that's a little bit of a nerf, obviously not too much, but it'll weaken his laning phase a bit. However, his HP per level is being increased to kind of eventually, of course, make up for that base decrease. His attack speed per level is being increased by a whole 0.1% now. According to my clickbait expertise, that means he is absolutely a broken, busted champion now because he got a 0.1% increase in his attack speed. Perseverance, okay, obviously, in case you're not aware of sarcasm, that's not a lot. Perseverance passive no longer doubles below 25% and 50%, respectively, of course, of his HP. The cooldown is now being changed from 9 seconds and 4 seconds to now just being a 6-second flat, which is a little bit better early, but a little bit worse later, of course. It got changed from non-epic monsters don't break passive at level 11 to now being non-epic monsters never break it. So I guess that's not bad, right? I guess that's a buff, right? Overall, that's pretty good. Maybe Jungle Garen will be a thing. And the heal amount has also been changed from being a flat 2% and then a flat 8% to now starting at a little bit lower. But you can see going up substantially higher, almost an extra 3% increase. So a little bit of a weaker, a little bit of a nerf, I guess, in the very earlier parts of the game to make his laning phase a little bit more, I guess, easier to punish. But don't forget, he does have a 6-second cooldown at all ranks now. So even though it's a lower percent at the earlier levels, you get to proc it a little bit faster. So is it better? Is it worse? Hard to say for sure. But that's the change to his passive. Moving on to his W. Now, Ease, by the way, of course, as we know, is the big one. His W. Resist per stack has been lowered from 0.33 to 0.25, which is, it's not too bad. The resist cap has been lowered by 20. The minion kills to max stacks has been increased by 10. So I guess it just takes longer to stack overall. And it has a new effect. He now gains a shield that blocks 10%. Wait, what? He gets a shield that blocks damage, so 10% of his health in damage. That's really good if you go tank Garen. And 60% tenacity lasts for the shield's duration. So does that mean, does it say for how long? For 2 seconds. Oh, no, for the 0.275 seconds, he'll get a shield. Okay, I see. And 60% tenacity, that's actually pretty spicy. 10% of his HP, that's really good. Now, if we were to take a look, just in case you're not aware or you kind of forgot, the current Garen on the live service, what does his current W do, right? His current W, when you activate it, he reduces 60% of incoming damage and has a 60% tenacity for the first 0.75 seconds, right? So now it's no longer takes 6% less damage, which was actually right here the whole time. My God. Instead, he scales off of his HP, which I think is, I don't know, it's hard to say. I think overall that should be a nerf to his W. I think. It seems like it's a nerf overall because just 60% less damage, period, I think is going to be overall better. But having said that, I think this might, I don't know, I think it's overall worse. It has to be a little bit worse. It has to be a little bit overall weaker. Anyways, moving on to his E ability, Judgment. The ticks changed from 5+1 per 3 levels, maximum being 10, to now being 7+1 per 17% attack speed. So now instead of scaling off of levels, we already know this from before, but it's just slightly different. It scales off of attack speed. So if you go for like an attack speed sort of build with Garen, well, that's going to be pretty spicy, right? You're going to be spinning like there's no tomorrow, like pretty much a Beyblade at this point. So that's going to be really cool. But it no longer scales off of levels. So if you want to go for like a very kind of attack speed, kind of damage oriented Garen build, you got this going for you. If you want to go for more like tanky build, then you got this going for you, which, you know, scales off of HP, which is cool. The base damage has been changed to being overall slightly lower at the earlier ranks, but actually slightly higher by the time you get it to rank 4 and 5, which is pretty good. So a little bit weaker in the lane, but scales a lot better, especially once you get that attack speed going. I mean, you're just going to be melting people. The AD ratio has been changed, so you can see here it's from 0.36 to now being a 0.28, rank 1. But by the time you get it to the final rank, it's the exact same. This doesn't have a 0, but this has a 0 for whatever reason. So a little bit earlier in the earlier ranks. The hits needed to shred armor has been increased, so it takes a little bit longer for it to reach its full potential, if you will, with the E ability. And no longer does it deal 33% bonus damage of only hitting one enemy. So that's, I guess, weaker for him when it comes to a straight duel. Now, moving on to the new effects, of course, of the E. Now deals up to 11, scaling off of a +9% to 13.5 AD. Bonus damage if there is only one enemy in range. So I guess it's kind of similar to this in a way, but this has its own like actual own scaling instead, which I think as you get later in the game and you get actual AD items and you know, spec yourself with an AD build, like a time at Triforce, you know, etc. It might actually be better overall. And the refunds its remaining duration as a lower cooldown if canceled early, which is actually really cool. So if you actually cancel it early, let's say you want to just cancel it just to throw out your ultimate, you get the cooldown back, which is really strong, actually. That's really good. And the final thing, of course, is his ultimate. The villainy passive is no longer a thing. Excuse me, I'm talking quite a bit here. So the villainy passive is no longer a thing for Garen. And now he does always true damage as opposed to magical damage, and then dealing true damage to people that are a villain. So now it's always true damage. But of course, having said that, you can see here the damage overall. I don't have to even look at it. I know the damage is being overall lowered, because it's always true damage. So obviously you don't want it to be completely overtuned, right? So that's like the little change coming over to Garen, and according to Rito Games, it is a buff. Moving along to Ivern. Now, Ivern is getting some interesting changes. It's only one so far. I think they'll be adding more as the patch continues and whatnot, but his attack range has been increased from 475 to 125. 475 from, yeah. So he's essentially almost always a ranged champion now. He's always attacking with this range right here. You can see it in this little screenshot, which is pretty cool. No longer do you have to be in a bush, which is weird. I mean, I feel like they should change something about the bush now, because now it kind of just seems like making a bush is not as powerful, not as impactful for the champion. Moving along, we have a mini-rework coming over to Shaco as well, a Shaco, which of course, according to Rito Games, is going to be a buff for the champion. So I already did a video about it. If you haven't checked it out, highly recommend you do so. The video or the change are as follows. His passive now has effects based on pretty much almost every ability. The basic attack will now, of course, do extra damage, of course, and it can crit. The Deceive, which is his Q, crits for 130% damage. Combine the two, of course, that's a lot of extra damage, right? And his ability now deals extra damage as well when you throw it behind the target, which is pretty cool. His Q ability's stealth duration has been increased. The cooldown has been lowered as well. So it's overall a little bit more powerful of an early game ability because it stealths you for a little bit longer. But as you get it to rank 5, you can see here, it's a little bit weaker. So you actually stealth for a little bit shorter of a duration. And the damage has been changed as well from dealing up to 50 base plus a 0.4 bonus AD scaling to now be dealing up to 65 base. So overall, just straight up increased base damage. But only scaling off of 0.25 base AD, and this damage, of course, can crit and no longer has an AP ratio. Moving along, his W. The biggest change here is the fact that this thing can now hit AoE. Now, whether it's hitting AoE or single target, of course, changes the type of damage and how much damage it'll actually deal. But the fact that it can hit AoE means Shaco can finally do Raptors in the jungle. That was almost impossible for him before, until you get a team out, of course. Early game, you can now actually get Raptors done, which is great for Shaco. His E ability now is like the ultimate AP ability for Shaco as well, because it deals magical damage. It now scales off of 0.75, or just 0.7 rather, AP. The damage for the base damage has been changed as well to being a little bit actually stronger early, but a little bit weaker as you get it to the final rank. And yeah, so it's a lot better for AP champions or AP Shaco because it does magical damage. And the execute has been changed as well to now being 50% increased damage on targets below 30% rather than this right here, which I think overall is better for AP Shaco especially. And the final thing is his ultimate, which the TLDR of this change is the fact that it just does less damage overall. But And it's a big but. The boxes that appear once you actually pop your your clone, once it dies, the boxes that appear instantly fear and attack your targets, as opposed to having that awkward delay, which pretty much means that it'll hit literally nobody. The final change, I believe, on the PBE that we have before I talk about the other smaller things is, of course, Viktor. Also getting some pretty nice changes. First of all, we have his Q, Siphon Power. Scaling on shield changed from 8% of his max mana with a 0.15 AP ratio to now being 30 to 115 based on level, also with the same scaling. So no longer do you have to stack mana on this guy, which I think is going to be potentially better and potentially open up more builds for the champion. Moving along, we have his W, Gravity Field. The slow has been changed from 44% at the max rank to 45% at the max rank, and a 2% increase at rank 1. So just a very slight increase, not really too much, but you can see the augment now effect once you upgrade it. The Gravity Field has been changed from stuns adds a vacuum to Viktor's spells now apply a slow for 20% for 1 second. That's, I don't know. I think that's potentially better. So instead of sucking them in like that now, he just applies slows, period. So you have like a, I guess, rallies in your kit. I think that's pretty good. And the final thing, of course, his ultimate. The tick cadence has been lowered by 1 second. The number of ticks has actually been doubled, which is pretty good. The damage per tick has been actually lowered since, of course, it has more ticks now. So if you hit all the ticks, I'm assuming it'll do more damage overall, which yes, it will. But if you don't, then it'll do less damage. So it's pretty much forcing you to hit more ticks. But now that you have the slow on your upgraded W, I think that's not that hard to do, honestly. It's really not. And it also moves faster, so it kind of guarantees that you'll hit them more. So with an increase in movement speed and the, slow with your kit now essentially built into your W's upgraded version, how do you not hit all of them, right? Unless, of course, they flash away or something like that. So that's pretty cool stuff. I guess so right now I want to quickly talk about the other changes that we have listed here and what I think about them getting buffed or nerfed. We talked about these ones already. Lock of the Iron Solari. Forgot that item even exists. It's a very powerful item, though. Getting some buffs. Got to be careful with that, Riot Games. It's a very strong item if it's strong. Next up, we have Rengar. We talked about these ones. Rengar getting buffed. That is an absolute shock to me. The champion in high elo, at least, or the elo I'm playing in. I mean, it's usually a one trick, but the champion is completely broken, at least from the players that I see play him. He's really strong. I see him pop off almost every single game. The fact that he's getting buffed is very surprising, which probably means he'll just get permabanned, at least in my elo. In lower elo, I'm not really sure how it goes there. I'm not sure how good or bad Rengar is, but in my elo right now, man, I'm telling you, he'll get permabanned. Lissandra getting some buffs, got to be careful as well. At the moment, I don't see her often, and I'm happy I don't, I'll be honest, because they always go Aftershock, and it's annoying. But yeah, she's really strong if she's ever like a little bit too strong. She's pretty much way too strong. You know what I mean? She becomes one of those champions where you just pretty much have to pick her or you're griefing. She just does too many things well, I guess. Varus, of course, hasn't been in the meta too long, so I'm not surprised to see some buffs. I love facing Varus because he's very easy to kill. He's immobile. I love that. Very nice. Nerfs the Kiana. A champion is, her win rate's actually not that high. It's like 50% across the board. I know in like Platinum and below, it's like a 45% win rate. So I'm a little bit surprised she's getting nerfs, but I will admit she is, of course, a little bit on the strong side at certain parts. So I'm assuming, or at least I'm expecting some slight nerfs, nothing too crazy. Pantheon getting nerfed. Champion is completely broken now after all the changes and buffs they did to him after his release. So very not surprised there whatsoever. Very, very strong champion. And Blitzcrank, they literally just buffed him, yet they're already nerfing him. So Riot Games, you guys need to figure out what you're doing, man. How do you buff and then nerf a champion literally the patch after? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, let's jump into the rest of the stuff very quickly. That's about it for this video, guys. There you have it. Of course, we have the new skins coming out. We have High Noon Ash coming out. Absolutely gorgeous skin. High Noon Darius. And of course, last but definitely not least, we have High Noon Hecarim. But either way, guys, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about this new format down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, of course, don't forget to hit that like button. And I'll see you for the next one. Peace.